Good morning and good afternoon. It's a few minutes before our start time. We will give other attendees a minute or so to dial in or join the webinar. Just enough time for you to fill your water bottles or coffee and get settled. Thank you for your patience. Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. I am Cynthia Perez, Director of Education at UTC. On behalf of UTC, welcome and thank you for being part of this webinar offering Fiber and Modernization of Electric Grid, sponsored by AFL. Please note that attendees will be muted for the entirety of this workshop. However, you will certainly have an opportunity and encouraged to ask questions. We ask that you submit your questions through the Q&A function and not the chat function. The chat function will not be monitored for questions. Please note that the Q&A function is intended for webinar-related questions and content only. And finally, today's presenter is Paul Thompson from AFL, who will present the webinar followed by a brief Q&A session. Type your questions as you think of them, and we will answer as many as we can. Remember, use the Q&A function to submit your questions. And now I'm happy to introduce Paul Thompson. Paul, it's all yours.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining. Good morning, good afternoon. Cynthia said, my name is Paul Thompson. I'm with AFL. And for around the next 45, 50 minutes, I'm going to share some thoughts into fiber and the modernization of the grid. Okay, so I'm going to discuss fiber infrastructure and a little on how it's been used and being used by electric utilities. I'm going to also spend some time on what I believe some of the key considerations are when looking to provide communication network to support the modernizing of the electric grid. My ask of you is twofold. One, as Cynthia said, if you've got any questions, we're going to save those to the end, so please use the Q&A function. And the other is that we've got 3 polls. So 3 times I'm going to pause briefly and ask for your input. They're not mandatory, but I would ask if you could respond. I think it will be, certainly from my perspective, good to get some different some views on what you think to the poll questions. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. So I'm gonna introduce AFL myself. Talk a little bit about what does grid mod mean. Talk about fiber optic solutions for the utility right of way, solution choices, deployment. You know, a little of the story so far, some of the emerging needs and challenges that the electric grid and utilities are facing. Maybe some lessons learned, and then some future considerations with a wrap up at the end. Okay, AFL. I expect many of you on the call. Many of you on the call, AFL is not a new name, but for those that do know AFL and those that may not know AFL so well, some key points or some high level items I'd like you to be aware of. AFL is solution focused. I think that's a key element that the leadership continues to drive and aspire us to be and to offer. Innovative, that's another key aspect of who we are and what we do. And for this audience, I think it's worth sharing that the electric utilities are a significant activity for the organization, a significant piece of the revenue. We AFL have been in operation for nearly 40 years. And over that time, a lot has changed, and a lot is very similar. We're not a new entrant. That's a key point, I think. We're not a new entrant. We have proven solutions and proven capability, I would argue. AFL is now 100% owned by Fujikura, but back in '84, AFL was formed, Alcoa, the Aluminium Company of America, and Fujikura, and they came together to provide OPGW into this market. A little bit about me. So I've had a long career in working with the electric utilities. Started in Europe in 1992. And it's been a key, electric utilities has been a key part of my experience and activity. I've got experience from Europe, and as it says there, for the last 12 years, I have lived and worked in the US here, based in Spartanburg, South Carolina, at AFL corporate offices. And I think that brings a slightly unique perspective. I've seen electric utility activities in other parts of the world, and more recently domestically here. I enjoy history, and the reason for and the relevance I think it has for today is I believe that that history can certainly help us in understanding. We can understand where we have been and some of the factors associated with that. It can certainly help to guide our thinking about the future and what we do and how we might want to do it. The quote there from Mr. Churchill, maybe a little extreme, but the feeling really is, or the meaning there for me is that really it's of use. It aids to our ability in how we look forward, and it's something therefore that we should consider. electric utilities, I've found, and I'm sure most on this call would agree, that electric utilities are pretty conservative, maybe very conservative. But in the world in which we live and we operate, electric utilities live and operate, it's changing. Change is a key factor. And that's something that the people and organizations in the electric utility fiber optic solution ecosystem, we need to embrace. We need to ensure that we are eyes wide open in terms of trying to understand the change before us and how we can support the electric utilities as they evolve and develop to address, manage, and exceed the needs and wants as they are going to be coming upon us. Communication is key, and I think that, to me, why this subject is of interest and relevance is that the grid is changing. The grid needs to modernize, and communication plays a key part in that. And I believe fiber has a key role to play in that too. So what does grid modernization mean? I don't think that there is a right answer. I don't think it's black and I don't think it's white. I think there's multiple shades of gray. But in trying to sort of frame it, Department of Energy has listed some suggestions as to what a modern grid should have, and you can see them there: greater resilience, improved reliability, enhanced security, affordability, flexibility, and increased sustainability. Just for those that are wanting to pay a little attention, I might mention some of those words at the back end of our time together. So that's really what the Department of Energy says. But for the purpose of today, and I think at the heart of the question on what grid mod means, I think it's the need to be able to communicate deeper through the network, through the electric network. If you recognize that there is a need to communicate, then the question is, how do you do it? And what communication architecture do you deploy? Okay, so let's talk a little now about the solutions, fiber optic solutions for the electric utility rights of way. And when choosing a solution, a cable type, construction, there are a number of considerations that come into play. And I've listed some of those there. There may be others, but those to me are some of the ones that are a little more front and center, that really should be considered when looking to utilize the utilities right of way. Obviously, the environmental, mechanical, where the line is it in a warm climate, a cold climate, a wet climate? What is the distances between the poles? What's the voltage of the line? Obviously, specific utilities have their own philosophies and practices, and they choose a certain path. So obviously, that is a factor. If the line is a new build, that may drive a different, set of solutions than if you're looking to retrofit. And there are others, the applications, what other communication architectures being used, what are you looking to communicate with, what do you want to do with the network? And then the last one there is obviously, deciding what you want to do is good, but then you have to live with that. You have to maintain it. You have to operate it. And that also then drives and has a relevance for the decision that you make as to the solution that is chosen. Okay, a high-level look at the story so far of aerial solutions, fiber solutions. using the right of way. So that's aerial and underground. And like me, I'm sure many of you on this webinar clearly can remember the first experience or the time that you came into contact with a fiber optic solution. Mine was pretty soon after I joined and started to work with the electric utilities, and that was around 1992. And it was a utility in the UK, in the United Kingdom, and they were installing a 4-fiber aerial connection to a substation, and it was with multi-mode fiber. And I can barely remember what I had for dinner last night, but I can remember that sort of almost clear as day, that was quite an important moment in the time. But now looking back, there's a lot similar to then, but an awful lot has changed. So the uses of the solution of the network, be it aerial, be it underground, there are a number of reasons. So the utility's own control and protection, own internal requirements, being able to basically understand and control the activity of what's happening on their network, to be able to adjust and control the energy distribution. A phrase I like is, if you can't communicate with it, you can't control it. And I believe that is something that's going to continue to underpin a lot of what's driving the activity with grid modernization. There was a move to utilities deploying their own networks to remove the need and the reliance on using leased lines. That was a control piece, a cost piece, and an important move for the utilities. And then there's another opportunity, if you like, with third parties, be it leasing building a network and then leasing dark fiber, or co-owning, coexisting. And that has been a function, certainly in this domestic market here, where networks the utilities networks have been used to provide communication for businesses. That was in the past, and then dark fiber, cross-state, cross-country networks, and that was a function, 90s and beyond. And then it sort of petered off. And what we're seeing now is that the third-party opportunities maybe are coming to the fore again, with the likes of middle mile. One thing I would say is that every solution has its place. I truly do not believe that there is one solution better than another. What there are solutions that are better placed than maybe other ones. But ultimately, it comes down to the utilities experience, the circumstances, some of those considerations that I mentioned a little earlier, and how that then drives the choice as to where a utility would zero in on specific solution choices. Oops, sorry. Fiber has a long and rich history, I think, in the utility space. Believe that the first patents for OPGW were the late 1970s. Deployments have started during the 80s for both OPGW and for ADSS. OPGW, I think, is definitely a go-to, and I think maybe categorize that as a mainstay for transmission lines domestically here. And then around about the same time, there was long span ADSS that was installed on high voltage lines, and one of the drivers for the high voltage ADSS was that you didn't need to de-energize the line to install the fiber optic cable. And also there was a consideration for where there wasn't necessarily a shield wire. That was an opportunity for a shield wire. Then I believe around about the early 90s, there was the National Electric Code. There was a change in that allowed for ADSS to be installed in the supply zone, and that facilitated the growth and deployment and development of shorter span ADSS. As I've said, OPGW on the transmission side is very dominant. I would just highlight the picture in the top left is a picture of a crossing. That's the Suez Canal, and that's a solution where you helically apply a cable, dielectric cable, to the shield wire. And outside of that solution's been deployed, but very much deployed in Europe, whereas ADSS, let's say on the higher voltage lines, was a much less used solution. And really, again, that just highlights it's horses for courses. Utilities have certain practices, codes, views, and different solutions are there to be used. On the distribution space, I mentioned ADSS, strand and lash. That has been a very well used, deployed, large quantities of that for many decades. And then on the underground side, we're seeing, certainly I'm seeing a little more interest activity. Certainly, grid hardening means undergrounding is a more interest and more use, let's say. And so traditional loose tube cables, blown cables, the micro cables, ADSS also, you can install it on the line and then pull it through a duct to save on a splice. So across the rights of way, there are a number of choices, and those choices are very much driven by a number of considerations that I've mentioned previously, not least the utility's own practices and needs and wants. Okay, I can take a short break, have a drink. This is where I would ask if you would just take a short while and give us some feedback on where you have deployed fiber in your network. And if you personally haven't deployed it, where you've seen it deployed, where you know it's been deployed. This is water, by the way. Okay. So, wow. So across the board, basically, we have seen the deployment pretty much equally split across, as you might expect, the transmission, the distribution, substation, and also underground. Thank you. Thank you for that. Okay. So just a little bit more on the transmission, distribution. I think it's fair to say that the OPGW on the transmission line, on transmission infrastructure, the wide area network, that's the dominant technology. But then the question that I continue to explore and to look at and to consider is the field area network, that maybe the distribution network, and advances in private LTE technology and accessibility. These advances are allowing utilities to deploy their own wireless networks much more efficiently. I think factors such as scale as you go, a scale as you go approach, licensed and unlicensed spectrum availability, and design and deployments firms with LTE capability are making private LTE very much a favored solution for utilities. I think there is the challenge of access and availability of spectrum, but there are companies, significant companies out there offering a lot of opportunity and capability and support in allowing and enabling private LTE to be deployed by electric utilities. So that to me, I think is the dominant player in terms of the distribution, the field area network. But what I do believe and what I do see is that fiber is not just for the wide area network. I think fiber is increasing in its deployment and activity and relevance in the field area network. And it's being used much more than just as a backhaul. Example, and a key example, I think, is that, over the last half a dozen, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, whatever the number is, fiber has been and is being deployed to support fiber to the home networks. And that is providing broadband communication deeper and deeper into the network. And so that offers those that are installing it the opportunity not just for fiber to the home, but also to support their grid modernization efforts using a fiber-based solution. Middle mile also. I mean, that middle mile is pulling the deployment further and deeper through the network. So this gives rise to the opportunity to use the network, the fiber that's getting pulled for specific applications, as I said, to support grid modernization, and provides the opportunity to consolidate and converge the network infrastructure. And so that's something that is increasing and I think will continue to increase. And we'll talk a little bit about that shortly. I've used this graph chart here, slide, many times. I think this really does articulate very clearly. A picture paints 1,000 words. On the left-hand side, you've got the unidirectional, the one-way communication. That's the traditional way it was. And what we are seeing to a lesser and or greater extent across the utilities is this significantly more complex situation where there are a number of different factors that's coming in that challenges the ability to provide the electricity at the right time, in the right way, and consistently. And all of that is driving the need for additional ability to control. And again, if you can't communicate with it, you can't control it. So renewables, microgrids, electric vehicles, these are, I'm sure we all would have come up with those in our list of emerging and new drivers, or drivers that are forcing the change for the electric utilities. But one that I found of interest was crypto mining. Those that have cryptocurrency might be a little disappointed with the performance, but what we are seeing is that crypto mining is really evolving and emerging as a dominant user of energy. I didn't know that, it's another interesting dynamic. It's adding some disruption to the energy demand space, and I read somewhere that the cryptocurrency market is expected to grow threefold by 2030. Maybe not if the value stays this low, but it's really the fact that crypto mining is increasing and is expected to use as much energy as existing traditional data centers, and we all can see and know the new demands that's placing on the electric utilities. So there's a multitude of drivers. There are a multitude of different situations that's causing and driving new situations that have to be dealt with, and is driving ultimately, therefore, the need for communication. Some stats. I think we all, if we Googled this, could come up. But really, these are large, meaningful numbers that really do help to drive home the challenges and the benefit and the reason that utilities are looking to modernize what they do, improve what they do, how they do it, and that then in turn driving communication architecture sort of deeper into the network to help mitigate and provide some opportunity to address some of these challenges. Disasters there, you can see the numbers, significant numbers. EVs, I mean, these are now commonplace across as we drive around the country. Electric vehicles are increasingly becoming an everyday part of society. Electric vehicles need electricity. They need to be charged, and that's a challenge. So there's these increasing demands, but unfortunately, the electric utilities, you can see there, 70%, around 70% of the transmission lines are more than 25 years old. So you've got an aging infrastructure that is needing to do more and be more capable. And again, communication ability to control is somewhat very important. Talking of aging, I think this is the graph at the bottom there. You know, there is a skill shortage expected. The available workforce is in decline, be it due to a number of factors, including the population. You can see there, greater than 65 is going to be over 21%. Is expected to grow to over 21%, and compare that to 2018 when it was 16%. Why do I mention that? Well, people have skills, and if there are less people, there's less people with skills that's going to be available to support and provide the labor that the utilities are needing. So one of the items I'm going to be mentioning in coming slides is the ability to not de-skill the process, but make the installation process, the adds, drops, moves, changes easier, simpler, less need for a skilled base. And I think that's an important aspect of where we're going in terms of the development and the additions to the solutions as we move forward. I think we can all agree with the top bullet there. Fiber does, then the next bullet, fiber does offer bandwidth, low latency. Expectation is that data, volumes of data is going to continue to increase, and the applications. I always look back at the time when I first had a mobile, when I first had well, it was a fax machine when I was traveling, but a pager, and then I had a cell phone. But think of then and think now what you can do with your cell phone. I mean, I can turn lights on in my house. I can change temperature. I can check my bank. I can pay bills. I can, you know, there is so many more applications that are possible. And I'm not saying that we're all going to be, you know, the utilities are going to be providing us the means to address our banks, but what the capability of having communication is going to do is to drive the availability and the relevance, and then the use of new applications. And so the communication network that you have needs to be relevant, capable, and have some longevity to it. Fiber and wireless, there is a strong interplay, and somebody, a very clever man, recently said to me, and I'll only go by his first name, calling him Doug. He said, "You need a lot of wires to make a good wireless network," and that struck me as very, as wireless continues to develop, fiber and wireless need to come together, need to support each other, need to be able to help facilitate the means to provide the communication capability that the utilities need today and will continue to need in the future. I think federal funding, I've mentioned that a little while ago, but I think the funding that is pointed at rural FTTH, the digital divide, and grid modernization, I think there is this rural FTTH, that is in many respects a fiber play, taking fiber deeper. Grid modernization, the money is for all flavors of grid mod activity. It's not just for the communication, but communication is an element, and fiber is a play in that. And that then in turn is going to drive and continue to drive the need for the solutions of today and tomorrow to be effective and offer value and capability to utilities that are looking to utilize their rights of way and deploy fiber optic solutions. Oh, good. I think I need a little glass of water. Would you mind just taking some time and giving your opinion on the next 5 to 10 years? How deep do you think fiber will typically go in the electric grid? One choice only, I think, is what we're asking for here. Wow. So that's very interesting. Again, thank you very much for taking the time to do that. So the question was, the next 5 to 10 years, how deep will fiber typically go in the electric grid? 44% said directly to the sense control devices in my network. Very interesting. Very interesting. Thank you. Okay. I think, again, history has shown us that I think this is an evolution. Deployment of fiber, it's evolving. We're not going through a revolution. We might go in little spurts, but it's an evolution. And forgive me, please indulge me. Rome wasn't built in a day, and that's quite apt. Wishing both teams good luck in Rome, and may the best team win, Team USA, or hopefully, did I say that? Team Europe. I think a stepped approach, as I've said, Rome wasn't built in a day. It's a marathon, not a sprint, whatever the phrase is you want to throw out there. But I think that's an important point to consider. It's being able to build upon what you've got. And being able to build upon what you've got means that what you have today has to be able to be relevant and used in that stepped approach. You only want to build something once. You don't want to deploy a network with a high asset cost and a high expected life, only to find that it doesn't meet the application needs, that you can't support use cases of the future. It needs to be able to be of relevance today, but of capable and capability in the future. And at AFL, we try and think of this in quite simplistic terms. I mentioned at the start the Department of Energy's suggested items there for what grid mod should include, sustainable and such forth. Well, at AFL, we like to think of the network, key considerations for the network as you look to choices, as we look to choices, as we look to support the ecosystem, is that it should be sustainable, it should be accessible, the network should be flexible, the network should be expandable, and the network should be reliable. What does that mean? This is, I won't go through each of these line by lines, but the point here is to try to articulate some of the factors that are important to ensuring that the infrastructure that we in the ecosystem are looking to offer and support, the electric utilities, is able to meet the ongoing needs. And there are some considerations, and as I said, that's a slightly more detailed view of the of what each of the words means. But sustainable, I mean, this is at a high level carbon emissions, but how can you and electric utilities have responsibilities for the environment, sustainability, emission objectives, responsible organizations, likes of AFL, we have those too. And in thinking about your investments, the infrastructure, you know, and with regard to carbon emissions, let's say, you don't want to install something only then to have to rip it out and replace it. Installing a network, you know, a large part of the activity is labor, and so savings on energy associated with the installation, you know, vehicles, truck rolls, these things are adding to the fact that what we are doing is enhancing the ability to support sustainability goals. Recycling, we are looking at and introducing a recycling of wooden reels. I think that's something not common to just to us. Other organizations, how do you recycle? How do we make sure we use what we've got in an efficient and effective way? Plug and play. I'm going to reference plug and play a couple of times in the next few slides, but truck rolls, if you want to control emissions, reduce truck rolls. And if plug and play means that you need to move less people and equipment around, it's easier to add to, or to change, or to remove. And that's an element. Accessibility, so sustainability, accessibility, making it easier to get into closures, handholds, making it easier to add new connections, to change connections, turn up the connection, be it from fiber to the home, a user, or be it to connect to an inline device. The operation of some of the equipment used to splice and test, simpler to use. Bluetooth, recording and saving data to the cloud, making it less prone to issues, and that's allowing us to then be able to access and provide the means to get to the joints, the connections that we will need to do going forward today and going forward. Flexibility. So on the attachment hardware, you know, one of the things that's growing in relevance and use is the hardware. You making sure that the attachment hardware can handle a range of cable. Then you don't have to have, differing levels of inventory for this hardware. It can help and control. You can be flexible in terms of using the same equipment for different cable sizes. Let's say I've mentioned plug and play. I've mentioned closures, but on the underground, the blown cable, flexible. You can blow in one cable today and then scale it as and when is needed in the future. Having that capability gives you flexibility. Expandable. I think what we are seeing is an increase in fiber deployment. The amount of fiber that is being deployed. I mentioned my 4 fiber memory. Today we're up to 432 for an all dielectric self-supporting solution. What there is in new technology that's available is the flexible ribbon, where you can install significantly higher fiber counts. Ease of handling and time associated with splicing. These are benefits associated with the flexible ribbon. And just to talk a little bit more about fiber, in the bottom left there, you've got a 432 traditional loose tube cable, and then next to it, you've got a 432 flexible ribbon. So you've got a smaller size cable. And to the right of that, using a smaller fiber, typically the single mode fiber is 200 outside diameter of 250 micron. There's fiber that has got a smaller diameter than that now. And so what does that mean? It means that the utility is able to install more fiber in the same size. And the same size is important because of the environmental, in relation to the mechanical considerations that the utilities have for their specific line configurations. In addition to that, so you can install more in the same size, but equally, if you wanted to, you could install the same in a smaller size. And the benefit of that may be that a smaller diameter would enable a utility more options to install a cable on their specific or particular infrastructure. There is maybe the smaller cable here with the same fibers is going to be lighter, therefore it's going to have some less loading conditions on it, issues associated with it. A smaller fiber means you could have a longer length potentially. Longer lengths means fewer splices. So the evolution in fiber technology, be it the flexible ribbon or the use of the smaller OD'd fiber, is giving the opportunity for the utilities to realize their needs and wants with regard to increasing fiber counts. In the last 10 years, I've seen aerial fiber counts increase 2x, and then the underground ones have increased 4x. What's that going to be over the next 10 years? And that is something that certainly is the consideration, and having your infrastructure be expandable is a big piece of that. Is the number of fibers you are deploying. We're seeing and hearing that it's really that the cost is not necessarily in the fiber. The cost is in the installation, is in the construction, and installing more fiber is believed to give you, and does give you, more opportunities to scale in the future, to deploy a more specific, let's say, grid modernization program. So it's about the asset life and the asset being able to realize the challenges of the applications in the future. Reliable. I think this is something that's crucial, important, and maybe well stated and well known. I think fiber optic solutions are reliable. They've been proven over many decades to offer not just value today, but value over time. I think that's a key piece in the reliability consideration. We've talked about it being craft friendly. You're not, if it's If it's more craft friendly, then there's less risk of issues or damage or failure. And the ecosystem is filled with reliable, reputable manufacturers, and I think that's something that hopefully the utilities get comfort from in working with companies that have focus, tradition, experience, commitment to the market that the utilities are totally reliant upon. If you're investing something today, you want to make sure it is of value and relevance and use tomorrow. And I think the manufacturers all have a role to play in that. Final poll question. So just one more ask, please. Do you see your grid modernizing applications driving fiber counts more than 432 fibers for aerial applications? Interesting. So thank you again for the response. So yes. Oh, I missed that. I think it was 30%. Thank you. 29% said yes, they do see the need for higher. And 70%, 71% said no, they did not feel there were need for more than 432. Interesting. Thank you. Okay. So this is my final slide. No, it's not. Almost the final slide. We've talked a lot about the fact that utilities are evolving. That's a given. The change, the only constant is change. Evolution is good, but evolution needs to be supported. And I think that support comes a lot from the available solutions that the ecosystem is offering. And the technology advancements is going to challenge and offer opportunity to those in the ecosystem to support new moving the envelope, pushing the envelope out, that's going to enable the utilities to connect to the devices. Just referencing the second poll, that there was a significant number of respondents that felt fiber to the device was coming, and so we need to be able to support that. And that's something that's an evolution, not a revolution, and it's important to bear that in mind. The communication infrastructure, therefore, needs to be able to support that. You need to build it once, it needs to be relevant today, and in the future, it needs to be scalable. Having the ability for it to be iterative, additive, stepped is important. The interplay between fiber and wireless is very crucial. Each utility has its own preferences and ways, and private LTE wireless it is a key player, but fiber is also a player, and the two complement. They don't compete, in my opinion, and that's a key need and a key step as we look forward. There are considerations. We like our acronym SAFER. I think it helps frame and it helps thought process, but really it's about all players in the ecosystem having the ability to play a part and understand the need for sustainability, accessibility, flexibility, it to be expandable and obviously reliable in the solutions and the offering that is made. And at AFL, we like to think that the fiber is going to continue to be deployed. We think that because that's what we've seen over the years, and that's what we see is and hear that is going to continue to happen. Utilities have a right of way. We like to say follow the power, but what we also like to say is that the utilities are looking, and we are looking to support the utilities' ability to install fiber through the grid, FTT grid. That would be it. Wanted to thank you very much for your time. That is my that's my contact. That's my email there. I would be pleased to hear any feedback or comments or alternative views, or any ways to that responsible players in this ecosystem can come together and move the ball forward. I want to thank the UTC for this opportunity. I think UTC is a key organisation that brings various players from various areas within the market together, and the challenge and the skill of the UTC is to try to understand the requirements and needs and keep those that are active in the electric utility space moving forward and working for a common goal. So with that, thank you.
Oh, thanks, Paul. And I want to acknowledge the generosity of AFL for sponsoring this webinar and Paul for his presentation. Please note that after the webinar, you will receive an email that will contain a link to the webinar evaluation form. This is very important. You must complete the evaluation form to receive a certificate of attendance. You will earn 1 professional development hour for this webinar. Thank you all for attending. Have a great day. Bye, Paul.
Thank you very much.